Hi and welcome to this 3ds Max tutorial, and in this we're going to be creating an object like this, which is achieved through using photometric light and a studio style setup. So let's get stuck in and start the tutorial. So what we're going to do is set up our stage to look like a normal photographic studio shoot, and that means we're going to use some 3-point lighting and an infinity scoop. But before we do all that, I want to check that you're using the correct renderer, because we're going to be using the mental ray renderer. So if you go up to the render setup, which is up the top here, and it's the little teapot, the third one, actually the first one along the top, and I click on that, and underneath the common tab, if you scroll down, you'll see assign renderer. If you click on the little plus symbol to extend that, you'll have something saying default scanline renderer. If you just click on the 3 dots there, and you choose the NVIDIA Mental Ray renderer, and then close that. And what that will do later on is it will give us extra materials that I can select from the material editor here that aren't available to us normally. So if I just scroll down through the material editor, you normally wouldn't get this Autodesk material library if you're in this standard setup. So what we're going to do now is just close that down, and we're going to make an infinity scoop in this window here. So an infinity scoop in a studio is something that doesn't allow you to see the hard edge of the corner and something like that. And it's very simple to do. I'm just going to go to the shapes over here, and from splines I'm going to choose a line. And in the left window here, I'm just going to click, let go, and I'll probably bring it to about the back here. I can hold shift to make sure it's straight. I can click once, pull up, hold shift to keep straight, click again, and then if I just right click, that will finish the line off there. And with splines we can actually still edit some properties on it. So I'm going to go to the modifier setting here and down to the vertex. If I select the vertex, what we're going to do is scoop this little area here. And we're going to do that using something called fillet. And if I click on that now and pull it this way, you can see that I'm just creating a nice little infinity scoop. There we go. I don't want it too big. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is turn this actually into almost like a roll of paper that you'd roll out in an infinity scoop. And to do that, I'm going to just go to the drop down list again from the modifiers, and I'm going to select extrude, and the amount I'm going to extrude, let's just put it way up. I don't even want to worry about thinking about it when I put my object on it. Okay, so there we are. I'm just going to now drag it using my move tool on the x-axis back up here so it covers the entire area. So I've got a nice place here I can set up my object. And one of the nice things about this studio setup is if you save it afterwards, what can happen is you could potentially use it for other objects that you just bring into this and just then re-render in a photographic quality. Okay, the next step is we're going to just put an object in here now. So I'm going to go back to the create panels, and I'm going to choose from here. I'm going to choose maybe something from the extended, sorry, it needs to be on the standard primitives. I'm going to choose something from the extended primitives, and I'm going to choose the torus knot. There we go. Just click, get the thickness there, and then I'm just going to move that up on the z-axis so it's just on the floor there. And in fact, if you're into using the align tool, I could now click on the align tool. And I've aligned, you can see it on the left here, the minimum to minimum. Let me apply that. And now I know it's going to be on that object there. I'm just going to bring it back. I probably could have done it just the middle, but I'm just going to bring this back into view. And in fact, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. You can see it's way over this area. I'm just going to click and drag it back up here. It's not ideal aligning it that way, but if you've come off one of my other tutorials where you've used the align tool, you might want to give it a try. but it is aligned on the bottom. It's probably pretty simple just to bring it in there and actually just put it on the actual infinity scoop yourself. And I'm actually just going to bring it a little bit this way on the x-axis, and by holding the middle mouse wheel I can pan around and zoom in. So something like that, I think that would be good. Okay, next step is the lights. So I'm going to select a light, and for the moment I could select a target light here, but I'm going to choose a free light because I want to show you some settings that you can set and adapt for later on. So what I'm going to do is just select the free light, and it will now come up with a setting saying you are creating photometric light. And do you want to use the mental ray photographic exposure control? And I don't want to use the mental ray photographic exposure control. I want to keep this tutorial nice and simple. The photographic exposure control would allow you to control things like aperture of a camera and the ISO and things like that. So would I like to change this now? I'm going to click no. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in the left frame above my object. Now you can actually see in the front it's actually slightly off that way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it just directly above. Let me just click on it and put it this way, above my object. And you can see there it's giving some lighting effects to it. And actually let's just, I'm clicked in that window there, I'm just going to click the render production. And you can see that it's starting to add some lighting. Now, as I said, I could have made this target light, which would have been ideal, but I want to show you some different settings here. If I go to the modifier panel with that light selected and choose targeted, I can then, if I zoom out, but you can see the target's going way off over here, but I can then select the target, and I'm just going to drag it back and focus it onto my object. It's a good idea to check all your perspectives to make sure it actually is focused on it. Sometimes it will look like it is and it actually isn't. And with that done, I'm going to make it more like a studio light now. So what I'm going to do is, I've still got it selected there, and if you, by the way, don't have this double option like I do, what you can do is either have it in single view like this where you can scroll down, or a dual column view where you can pull it out and you can see both views. But if I go down here, I can go to shape area shadows, and emit from shape. So instead of just emitting from this one point, I want to emit it from a rectangle. And that's more like a studio light now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold down Shift and drag it out on the X-axis, and Shift will copy our object. So we've got two lights now. I'm just going to bring this around the front somewhere like here, and I'm going to hold Shift and drag it over here on the X-axis, and I've created my 3-point lighting. Now let's have a look at a render. I'm just going to zoom in. You may hear my fan on my laptop going a bit now. It's because it's starting to have to process a little bit more. So there's some pretty low settings here, but you can start to see that it's starting to use some lighting. And what we should do now is perhaps try and use some contrast lighting. So I'm going to click on the left hand side light, and if I zoom out you can see it there. It depends which view you prefer to work in. And I'm going to make this a blue. Okay, and this one over here I'll make a contrasting kind of nice bright orange. Okay, so now let's have a look at it. Okay, so it's starting to get a bit of orange here and a bit of blue here. I might just increase the brightness of the top here. I could do this a couple ways. I could bring it closer to the object, which I don't really want to do. I like to keep them balanced. I could increase the Kelvin, which is the temperature, and make it brighter or darker that way. and it gives it a pinkish sort of like hue to it as well. What I want to do really, I'm just going to make it up there a sec, is I'm just going to keep it nice and simple so it's really easy to understand. I'm going to go down to dimming and percentage here, and if I just increase that now, that'll increase the brightness of my light. Let's just increase it a bit more. Let's see what we've got going on here. Oh, I'm in the wrong view. Just cancel that. Go to here. Okay, that's starting to look a little better. That top one here, actually, I might just increase the Kelvin so it's a nice bright white. I'll just have one more quick look. That's a bit better, it's not so nicotine-y. And what I might also do is, you can see up the top here, the torus has a little bit of a jagged edge. So I'm just going to click on it. And from the modifier panel, I'm just going to increase the segments loads. Let's have another like that. And you can see that should smooth it out somewhat around the top there. Okay, so if you go to my next section, we're going to look at applying materials and using this lighting to create a realistic look.